Welcome back to the Block Party NBA podcast, episode 19. I am joined by the one and only King Wells. How's it going, dude?
It's going well, my friend, on this beautiful Monday, July 11th.
Monday, July 11th. So we're going to start today's episode with party fouls because typically we do these streams Fridays around 3 o'clock, stream it on Twitch, throw it on YouTube. Last Friday, we had a bit of a party foul, which we won't say the name of who they are, but let's just say we couldn't go online. Pretty much all of Canada was offline for a day. So, yeah, we're not going to say the name of them, but just know that's why we're streaming today as opposed to Friday.
Roger that.
No comment, but we're here now, which is all that matters, and we've been blessed with a little bit of Summer League basketball, NBA offseason, some stuff to touch on. But, like I said, party foul goes out to last Friday with you-know-who not being online. So we're back now. I can't think of kind of specifically any more party fouls for this week's show in terms of, like, players, people in the NBA, teams. Maybe a few things come to mind in terms of, like, maybe teams or like just kind of just not supplying enough in the Kevin Durant trades is kind of where I was thinking. So teams trying to kind of undersell and not throwing their best offers off, kind of trying to gauge the market was kind of the one that came to mind for me. Is there any situations, players, people, teams, organizations that you can think of that have been in the wrong, maybe some trades, acquisitions, anything along that line that you would consider a party foul that we've kind of seen last week?
Not really. Just there's one. I mean, I know that I don't want to sound like a hater, but I'm stretching here. But Damian Lillard got a huge extension, and I'm not necessarily saying he doesn't deserve it or that it's too much money or anything like that. But man, 2 extra years. I think it's like almost $60 million a year or something like that.
Yeah, doesn't it make him the highest paid player per year in those final 2 years, or would that still be Jokic?
He may be. I know Jokic got the biggest contract in
history,
in total.
Right.
But you might be right about that. But when those 2 years kick in,
so you're not a fan of that because of the timeline of Lillard come out of the organization, the amount of money, is it everything?
No, you know what? I probably shouldn't have even said that. I mean, I'm really trying to stretch here. I don't want to say that's a party foul.
Sure.
It's a lot of money, and he's on probably the wrong side of 30, I think.
31 maybe, 32.
I'm not really sure where the Trailblazers are going, but at the end of the day, a year from now or whenever the cap goes up, maybe it won't be a thing.
Sure. I was kind of limited in terms of party fouls. I mean, we're so early on and it's so fresh into Summer League that it's kind of hard to, screw up this at this point of the season. But
any bad contracts that you so from what you've seen, anything you don't like?
Contracts, I actually had not contracts, but I did have the transaction list pulled up, the offseason kind of trade tracker. There was one that happened today. I don't know if you saw it. It was the Alec Burks trade, but it kind of like...
Oh, I didn't see that. No.
Did you see that one? So I was going to mention this as possibly a party foul just because I didn't understand the idea behind it or like what they were really doing.
Let's hear it.
I'll read it out to you right now. I think it just broke because it says July 11th, but the Knicks trade away Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, 2023 second-round pick, the 2026 second-round pick via Minnesota or New York, and cash considerations to get Nikola Radicevic and a 2025 second-round pick.
So that's a salary dump.
So it was salary dump, but I guess
interesting.
It was
where is it going? First of all,
well, it's going to Detroit. So the Pistons get Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, which I actually thought like Alec Burks pretty good piece for them. Alec Burks.
I love Nerlens Noel too.
Yeah, and Nerlens Noel has been defensively like very, very solid for the last 6 years. You could even say.
You know what this makes me think?
What?
Well, New York's clearing some money.
Right. That's.
You think maybe they're going to try and make a run at Kyrie?
Well, this is my thought process. Like, I don't want to say this is a party foul because if that's what the intention is, and they ended up pulling off Kyrie, it's like probably the furthest thing from a party foul to clear out Alec.
Or maybe Durant even.
Well, someone because it's definitely a salary dump because of what was Burks making. I wanted to say plus 10. Like,
it's around 10. Both of them. Noel too. It's around 10. I think Burks like 11 and Noel's like 8. If I had to guess.
So they're clearing like roughly $20 million. I'm guessing Radicevic isn't anywhere in that ballpark. Just
Was he a pick this year?
I would assume because I've never heard the name till now.
Yeah, me neither.
And then it's cash considerations, 2025 second. So there's some pick swapping in there. Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel. I didn't want to call it a party foul because first of all, it's so fresh and new that I'm seeing it here just like before we went live. But also at the same time, it's like, well, is there a bigger picture here that I'm not seeing? Like, is this to just offshed some of that Brunson money? Maybe like leave themselves a little bit more room? Do they just not see Burks being as big a part of the rotation now that they have Brunson? Was that the idea behind it? They did also just sign Mitchell Robinson, I think, so maybe the same kind of thought process with Noel. But didn't really know how to classify this one. It was kind of weird. Didn't see it coming. But, yeah, it seemed like kind of a cash dump for the Knicks. So I don't want to call that a party foul because if they end up getting, obviously, a Kyrie or a Kevin Durant, it's the furthest thing from it. But as of
But if
now,
they don't, it could be a party foul because then they just gave away like a couple like reasonable assets, I
right,
would say,
right. Like
for nothing.
I would say Alec Burks to me, like, was a pretty good fit for them in terms of like what he was bringing. Like if you go back to last season when Kemba was really struggling and when they moved Kemba to the bench and they barely played him, like a big part of that was because how well Alec Burks was playing. So
yeah, no, and I like Noel. I was kind of hoping the Raptors made a trade for him.
Right, like always been kind of a backup center, but he'll go out there and play defense for you. He's not really much of like a rebounder or a scorer, but he will defend pretty relentlessly. So. Yeah, I didn't really understand that one. I think for Detroit, they're just trying to improve their core. I mean, they've probably got to be pretty excited what they saw out of the kid there, Ivy. Durant, I think, played pretty well too. I think they're just excited to get things up and running in Detroit. Their whole team's been at Summer League watching the games. I think Cade's ready to take a huge leap this year. So I think just adding some rotational pieces like an Alec Burks and Nerlens Noel, they just re-up Bagley to a new deal. Like they're ready to stay young, compete, and just get core players. So to them, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like I said with
Plus,
New York,
those guys are going to be nice assets come the trade deadline.
Oh, for sure. And I think they're, like we talked about, their deals are relatively reasonable.
Well, I think aren't they both on 1 year?
I wasn't sure the length, but I know like I'm pretty sure they're both around like 10-ish, so it's like pretty easy to trade that, especially now.
Oh, for sure, it's perfect. Those are filler contracts on any deal. You love those contracts.
Right. So yeah, I'll have to play it out and see. But that was kind of the only one I could think of for maybe like a possible.
That's a good one.
Party foul because I just didn't understand the reasoning behind it. I mean, if we're going through other trades, things of that nature, wasn't anything jumping off the page as a party foul. But I think we could probably move into life of the party because I have quite a few for that in terms of like just what we've seen, Summer League, trade rumors, things of that nature. My first one I wanted to start off with life of the party. So I have a few, but I'm going to specifically kind of keep mine tailored towards Summer League from what I've been watching as opposed to maybe organizational or management stuff.
Let's go.
First one I got to put on my list is just specifically mentioning this one first because of the slander that I have towards the organization. But Keegan Murray of the Sacramento Kings, want to give a huge shout out to him. What I've seen from him this whole Summer League, he's looked really, really good. I caught the tail end of the game versus Boncaro, Orlando, Sacramento. And first of all, what an exciting game. Came down to the wire. Some huge shots. I forget the player who hit the first big shot there on Sacramento, but like there was some banter between him and Boncaro that was pretty entertaining. And just to see the confidence like Keegan Murray is playing with this early on, he's obviously a bit of an older player, right? But the way he's shooting the ball, the size of his frame, I'm pretty excited to see him play this year, which is good because that's exactly what Sacramento needs. And I've just wanted to start with him because to me that's been one of the more kind of impressive things of Summer League. It's been his play, and yeah, I think it has to be warranted with all the slander I give towards the Sacramento Kings as an organization. Obviously, starting way back to their Tyrese Haliburton move last season, I'm pretty impressed with the pick, and I'm pretty excited with what he'll potentially do this year. So that's the first one I wanted to give a shout out to because I was really, really happy to see him flourish, believe it or not, even though he's a King. Pretty excited to see him play this year, actually. So yeah, that's the first one for me.
Yeah, he looks good.
And then I kind of tied that into my Paulo Boncaro because I think you kind of have to. Obviously, taken first overall by the Orlando Magic, there was a little bit of kind of like debate on whether that should happen come draft day. But I think just how he's played the last few games, summer league, how assertive he's been. His pull-up jumper looks really, really nice. His obviously NBA body is going to be the most beneficial thing coming into next season, I think. So those are the two that really stuck out on my list. That game also kind of falls into that category because it was such a fun game to watch. So I got those two for my life at the party, specifically those kind of two players and teams. But yeah, curious if you have anything else. Is there anything that's caught your eye this last week that you think is worth mentioning?
Yeah, well, I mean, first thing, I don't put too much stock in the summer league, but it is really nice to see how these young guys, especially the rookies, just kind of not adapt, but like react to their first taste of NBA basketball,
Right.
or something close to it, anyways. But in all honesty, it is not that close to it. It's summer league for a reason, and that's why we've seen it a million times where players will play really well in the summer league, but they don't necessarily do the same thing in the season. So again, I don't put too much stock into this, but it is always a good sign, obviously, if your guy's doing well. But having said all that, I did, I watched that Raptors game against the Sixers in the summer league.
Mm-hmm.
Christian Koloko was out there, looking very good, looking very long. He didn't stuff the stat sheet as far as points and rebounds. I think he was like 10 or 12 and 7 or something like that.
Yep.
But he did have 3 steals and 3 blocks,
Right.
which I think is that's real nice.
For sure.
And he hit 4 free throws, all of his free throws, which is even
Mm-hmm.
even better. But more importantly, he just looked like he never really looked lost to me. The role that he's playing is, I don't see any. He'll struggle a bit with the defensive schemes and all that at first, I'm sure, and probably the speed of the NBA. But he looks kind of right at home there, and I'm excited to see him grow into his role. He was looking good. I am excited about Ron Harper Jr. He looked like he didn't score a lot, but he was on defense. He played hard on defense. He always kind of seemed to be in the right place at the right time. Plus, I love the afro, so. I really he's got a big body, I think he can fit kind of anywhere, and we have him on a 2-way deal, but I would not be surprised if we keep him going forward. But only one game and it's summer league, so it could all mean nothing. But I'm feeling pretty good.
And then I think it's worth mentioning too, Delano Banton and Armani Brooks both had really, really big games. And I was pretty impressed with what I saw from Banton. I think Banton will carve out a nice little backup point guard role next year, hopefully.
I think so.
I think he's kind of slotted in to kind of take what would have been Malachi Flynn's kind of emerging backup role. I think that's kind of shifted over to Banton, and I really kind of anticipate Banton playing the backup point guard next year, and
I hope so.
taking a big step, I think.
Yeah, I hope so. He's got to work on his shot, but everything else, I mean, his frame just definitely gives him a really good chance of staying in the game, or getting the opportunity. And Armani Brooks, yeah, you're right though. You hit on the head though. He played very well. Basically, the only
5
guy that
threes.
was really hitting it from the outside, which
Right.
is that's one of the first things I look at.
Right. 5
So
triples.
he looked good.
Yep.
Yeah, he looked good shooting it, really confident, as he should be. People he's playing against, a lot of rookies out there, and he's got some experience. So
Right.
yeah, it was good to see that.
What did you get a chance to check out any of the OKC games?
Yeah, I saw Chet. I saw Chet play. Not only was I impressed with him, but man, the whole team,
Right.
all these young guys,
For
all
sure.
these long young guys, and you can see what they're doing with this. And if I'm an OKC fan,
How
if they're out
pumped-
there,
how-
I'm excited.
How pumped are you?
I'm really excited. I mean, I feel like them. I was going to say this about the Thunder, actually, or not the Thunder, about the Rockets. That I think this is going to be a really important season for them, because they don't need to make the playoffs or anything. Nobody's going to expect them to win a championship, but they do need to kind of put that groundwork down for the culture they want to build this team on. And I think the players that they have is just such a great, just such a perfect balance for that. So I'm excited to see what they do. But now I'm looking at OKC thinking, damn, not only are these guys just going to build a nice foundation, but they're going to do something that most of the league is not doing. which is relying on length.
Right.
Um, and I'm really excited to see how that works.
Taking kind of those Toronto foundations of like getting as many.
Toronto, Cleveland,
Right, right. Which I mean, look at Cleveland's growth last year.
yeah.
It clearly is like something that's is working and it's effective when you have those big bodies, big frames. Like,
Well, can I say something else? Actually, this is making me think of
sure.
this is not summer league, but I've been thinking about this Rudy Gobert trade a lot.
Mm,
I am really excited to see how this works for the Timberwolves.
I'm
I
excited
think,
too. I watched the
man,
presser.
it's possible that it doesn't work. All right, it's possible. It's definitely a risk, but I think this is gonna work, man. I
Yeah,
think
me
that
too.
Rudy Gobert does absolutely everything that you want Towns to do at his best.
Hmm.
So he's going to not open up the floor for him, but open up, that side of the floor for him, to kind of not have to be the anchor on defense. And I love the Twin Towers thing, man. I really
Hmm.
love it. I wouldn't be surprised if Rudy Gobert doesn't finish games, which is going to be weird considering his contract. But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised either if he doesn't have to finish games because they're just nobody can score on them.
Right,
You know what I mean? So
right.
it's gonna be interesting. I'm really interesting to see what they're doing there. And yeah, they gave up a lot. They gave up a lot of picks. But the reason they gave up a lot of picks is because they didn't want to give up, and obviously they didn't want to give up D'Angelo,
Hmm.
didn't want to give up
Cat, obviously.
Cad. Yeah, exactly.
And they
And
also
and
didn't want to
then
give
they
up
all
McDaniels, I
well,
think.
that's what I'm saying. They didn't want to give up McDaniels because he's just gonna fit into that starting lineup
Perfectly.
or come off the bench because they did sign Kyle Anderson, who I really like as well.
Oh, they signed Kyle Anderson.
Yeah,
Wow,
so
I didn't know they got slow mo.
I think
Interesting.
I'm interested to see what happens with Ant-Man next year, but Minnesota right now really is piquing my interest in general.
I think that's a really good one to mention for Life of the Party because I think after watching the Rudy Gobert presser, I got really excited about the possibilities. And I think one thing you touched on, the key to this trade for me is not so much what Gobert will provide, because I'm pretty confident we'll see a similar Gobert that we saw in Utah. I think he's going to know his role. I think he's going to play defense. Now, they did talk about him probably utilizing a little bit more of a passing game up top, a little bit more, kind of similar to what we see from maybe
Definitely.
like a Jokic or like even like a Drummond when they grab the ball at the top and kind of facilitate. But I think what this really leaves me wanting to know more of or wanting to watch is how Cat plays alongside Rudy. I think it's less for me about Rudy as it more is for me about Cat playing alongside Rudy. Now, we know how lethal Cat is from beyond the arc. He's one of the best shooting big men of all time. My only fear with this trade is that it pushes Cat to rely on the three consistently and constantly to the point where he loses those elements of his game, like the backing down, the getting on the block. Cat can finish around the rim very, very well. And he kind of had a really good mixture of the threes of that. And there's certain aspects of Cat's game when I've been watching Cat a lot of years. And when he relies on the three a little too much, it sometimes comes to bite him in the ass. So I guess my biggest fear of this is that we just get a Cat on the perimeter who's launching threes, his field goes down, and he doesn't flourish in this system. But then the other part of me is like, okay, well, if we're now asking Karl Anthony Towns to strictly be an offensive weapon, do his role on defense, but not be that center foundation piece like a Gobert, this could really benefit Cat at the same time. So I'm interested to see how it pans out. I think it could really, really work. But then,
Well, I think like for example, if they had done this trade before playing Memphis Grizzlies,
mm,
because one of the biggest problems, obviously, when they played the Grizzlies was Ja Morant getting on the inside.
sure,
But
sure.
good luck with Rudy Gobert patrolling the paint, man. I'm not saying he can't do it, but be a lot harder, a
For
lot
sure,
harder.
for sure, for sure. And that's they're gonna have like the length, the and like I think I'm with you. Like I think the W of this trade to me is them being able to keep McDaniels. I for sure thought Utah would have wanted McDaniels at least. Like if they weren't getting
I'm sure
Ant,
they did, but that's why they said, "All right, fine, we want all your picks."
yeah. So I think Minnesota is very, very interesting. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm curious to see how they come out of the gate. Um, I think you got to be pretty happy to pick up Gobert. I think fans' perspective is like, man, we only got stronger after this trade. You can't add a defensive player of the year and not get stronger. It's really just going to come down to me. How does this affect Cat's offensive game? Can Cat stay consistent with his shooting, with his, like, will he rely too much on just being a 3-point shooter? Because that's the last thing I want to see is Cat just strictly turn into a guy who stands at the perimeter and hucks threes. Like, there's so much more to his game, and that's the big fear for me, is that this kind of mutes that or takes away from that element. Another really good thing that will probably benefit them in this system a lot is Cat is one of the most underrated passing big men in all the NBA. So I think that's really, really going to help.
Definitely.
I've seen Cat, like, if you go back, you can just YouTube Karl Anthony Towns 2021 passing highlights, and some of the passes he throws are like on par with LeBron James. I'm not even kidding you. Like, he will chuck the ball with one hand cross court to the corner over his shoulder, sprinting to the, like, he does some pretty ridiculous things. So I'm excited to see that element.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
Do you think Cat should be the focal point on offense?
That's a good question. I'd probably say starting the next couple of years, it'll probably be Anthony Edwards.
I think it should be.
I think he is kind of going to be the guy to get it going and kind of be their engine that gets them going. I think Cat's okay with that, because I saw a huge shift in terms of, I watched a lot of Ant, a lot of Timberwolves year one. Ant started and came onto the team not getting, he's a rookie, right? So there's going to be times where he's not getting fed the ball, he's not getting passed when he's open. Now it's like Anthony Edwards can take 45 shots a game and no one's saying anything. So I think just the trajectory of how it's panned out from year one to year two, I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Edwards leads the team in shots attempted next season.
I think he should, and I think it makes more sense because what will happen there is that it'll relieve a lot of pressure on Cat. And I'm not saying that he can't handle the pressure, but I think he will be a better player for now, at least, going forward as like the 1A, or 1B, or whatever you want to,
sure,
however way you want to say it. And so, you have Ant attacking off a Rudy Gobert screen. The rest of the floor is spread out. And as he attacks, you got Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns crashing the boards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good luck getting that rebound if he misses. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
right.
I think Cat's still gonna have an easy 20 and 10 every game.
Mm.
It's just that 20 and 10 is gonna be hustle stats and hitting the open three off a catch and shoot from Ant, and they'll go to him every now and then for sure. But I think it flows better, and it's better for him to not necessarily be the focal point right now. Maybe in the playoffs is different,
right?
But for now, I think it makes more sense.
How do you see this affecting D'Angelo Russell? Because to me, D'Angelo is kind of the odd man out now. Now, I think D'Angelo is actually a pretty underrated playmaker, so I think he can kind of make that work if he just gets feeding. But to me, he's kind of the odd man out here, and he kind of felt like that last season a bit too.
As a scorer, he's the odd man out
for sure.
But I don't think D'Angelo's best D'Angelo is him being a scorer. I think he should concentrate on being like a 15 and 10 guy,
sure,
rather than a 25 and 5 guy.
Sure. Sure.
And I think he can do it, man. He's so smooth the way he plays,
mm-hmm.
and he's got the shots that you need when you need them. It's just that when he kind of tries to dial his own number all the time, it looks a little gross.
Right.
I mean, and
right.
It's not necessarily his fault. He's been in situations where he's had to do that.
Sure.
But I think him at his best, I don't think he's the star on the team. I don't think he's I'm saying at his best, I don't think he's like the number one option on the team, but I think that he should be he could be a very, very good point guard that like they wouldn't want to trade him. He can do everything they need him to do.
Am I crazy for comparing him to maybe like a young Mike Conley in Memphis? Is kind of like how I see his ceiling.
Only because he doesn't have the defense at all.
Sure.
Conley,
Probably not really fair. And I was kind of thinking more offensively, but yeah, that's very true. So you think D'Angelo probably, like, I think you mentioned it, 25 to 5 to 15 and 10. You think that's something he should be working to, like, concentrate on the playmaking game?
I think he should be
striving to be
molding himself into.
Right.
That's what they're going to need from him. They don't need that. Ant is going to take the scoring load.
Right.
Towns is going to take the secondary scoring load.
Right.
Rudy Gobert is going to protect the rim.
Right.
Now they just need somebody to keep the ball moving.
Right. And then you got McDaniels in there too, who I think defensively hasn't reached his potential, and is shooting wise, like, he's so long. He gives you those kind of Ingram, moments where you go, wow, this guy could actually be something. And I think that being able to keep him, and if they can run him at the 3 and develop him more, I think in this system he will slot in as the guy that no defense is planning for. Like, I mean, you're going to be concentrating on Ant. You're going to be concentrating on Cat. You're going to be worried about D'Lo being open. And then I think McDaniels will find a lot of open looks because of that. So
no doubt about it.
And I think at this point, it's like he just got to shoot him because you got Gobert and Cat there to rebound the ball for you. So I'm pretty excited with the Timberwolves. I think I'll be watching quite a bit of them as the season progresses. I think Gobert, the fit, we'll have to see how it works, but I think on paper, even though it might not make perfect sense, it might be one of those moves where you look back and go, like, something about this just works, and it's just imposing. So,
like, I think most people look at it and they don't like the trade because they're like, man, that's an overpay for Gobert. And you know what? Probably it is when you look at it like that, probably. But I'm looking at the idea that they're going for,
right?
And again, not having to trade away any of the pieces that they really didn't want to have to trade away.
Sure.
And I'm okay with it. This is like putting your chips in and going for it right now. And you know what? I'm okay with it. It's a risk. It's always going to be a risk.
You still have Anthony Edwards. You still have Karl Anthony Towns. So at the end of the day, you still have very young quality assets. Like if you put Karl Anthony Towns on the trading block at the trade deadline, every team would call, right? Like, still, I'm pretty sure.
Of course.
So it's just one of those things. Same with Anthony Edwards, right? Like, those two pieces alone, I think you have a lot of confidence in your infrastructure right there that you can make a move like this, right? Like, now, the speculation, and actually, you know what? I want to segue this now because this has caused me to come to some sort of an epiphany where I've actually thought of another party foul. So, if you will be so kind, I would like to jump back into the party foul segment here, because there was a report, and what triggered this memory in my mind of this party foul was the report that the Brooklyn Nets asked the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I don't know if you saw this, but they asked for Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, and I think it was like 4 to 5 picks, 2 to 3 pick swaps in return for Kevin Durant. Now, I'm going to put Brooklyn Nets in the party foul here because I can respect a team going for all the assets in the world. But to come out, and again, I don't know if this offer is actually true or not. This is just something that was leaked. But if this was indeed their intention, or if this is what they were trying to go for, to me, this is a party foul in the sense that not only do I think they were unrealistic trying to get one of the two, they tried to get both of the two. So I'm like, I don't know if there's validity to this, but do you think the Nets are a little bit out of their mind in terms of their asking price for Kevin Durant? Because as much as it's Kevin Durant, to me, that offer seems barbaric.
Barbaric. Yeah, I think it's very similar to. Do you remember when James Harden was going to be or Ben Simmons was going to be traded, and Daryl Morey's like, "Yeah, I'll trade it to the Raptors, but I want Pascal, I want OG, I want Fred VanVleet, and I want all your picks." And it was just like, the fuck,
no.
like, why? But that story didn't come out from Toronto,
sure,
right? Like, that story comes out, and the same thing with this one. I'm sure. I wouldn't even check it. I'm sure
Philly.
It's coming out from
price, right?
Well, somebody from the Nets side that's leaking that because they want everybody to know we want everything for Kevin Durant.
Sure.
It's not, you're not going to get him on the cheap, but like, they're just trying to set the price. It sounds ridiculous.
It sounds ridiculous, right?
Because obviously Minnesota, even if they loved Kevin Durant, they're not going to trade the entire team for him.
Right.
So, like, you know, I take it with a huge grain of salt. I wouldn't even put Brooklyn the party foul for that because that's what you got to do. It sounds ridiculous, but it's.
It just to me, it made it seem like, okay, well, this is what's gonna halt them so much. If this is what they're now, again, like you said, they're probably just setting kind of a benchmark so teams go.
Should we talk about this KD thing?
Well,
might as well.
We kind of have to get into it, but from what I've heard is he's kind of gone silent mode. He's gone ghost recon. They say he hasn't really replied to players hitting him about possible trades. Like, from my understanding,
I kind of like that.
So he's coming to
Toronto.
I mean, bro. Let's move into buy sell trade because this will be a little bit more appropriate for some of these ideas maybe.
Yeah.
Do you buy the idea of Kevin Durant coming to Toronto? Do you buy that this is still in play? Is that or are you selling this idea? Are you holding on to this idea maybe for a little bit longer to see how this plays out?
Do you mean the idea that we would make the trade for him?
Right.
Or stay in Toronto?
Let's see. Let's start with the idea that we would actually make the trade for him. And do you Do you buy that? And do you buy the report that I hate to say this to you, but do you buy the report that I saw one report that apparently, and I don't know how much validity is to this,
Let's
but
hear it.
if Scotty Barnes is in play, the Nets are all on board. Like that's who
Well,
they're.
obviously, I buy that,
If you can, if
but I'm not giving him Scotty.
is there any circumstance to which if you lose Scotty and keep OG and Siakam and Van Vliet and some of the picks that it works, or is it totally like Scotty is the piece where no matter what it is we're not trading, or is there a way you believe it or buy it?
Fair enough. And you know what, it's a fair question, but listen, here's the thing, because after we talked about this I think a couple of weeks ago, and then I was thinking about it for a whole week, and honestly I'm really considering it. Like I'm really putting everything down. Like I'm trying to be as open-minded as possible. All right.
Right.
But I just don't see how it makes sense to trade Scotty Barnes for Kevin Durant. And it's a lot of things. It's a lot of reasons. The main ones, the first one is that it can't be Scotty Barnes for Kevin Durant straight up. You've got to throw a big contract in there.
Right.
So it's got to be at least Gary Trent Jr. going out there
with a Boucher or another piece in there too.
We can't even trade Boucher, I don't think, yet. So it would have to be like Kem Birch, which obviously I'm fine with. Whatever, take him.
Yeah.
But you got to throw in Gary Trent there, and then that's starting to be like, it's not breaking my back, but to throw Scotty Barnes on the table first of all is a huge decision. But then the fact that you're gonna have to tie at the very least Gary Trent to that too. Mm-hmm. And then like if Scotty Barnes is going out, they're not getting picks. Like there's no way they're getting picks if they're getting Scotty Barnes too. You know what I mean? Because then there's our future. It's gone.
Right.
So that's number one. Number two is, and I love Kevin Durant. I think Kevin Durant on any team is a killer that any team would want. I'm not trying to put down what he's done, anything. Not trying to do that. But really, at the end of the day, trying to be as black and white as possible, it's that you're trading 4 years of Kevin Durant. Okay. And honestly, those 4 years,
it's probably 3.
Probably going to be 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Probably. Mm-hmm. One way or another. Mm-hmm. And what you're giving up in Scotty Barnes, like probably is like a good decade. Mm-hmm. And
decade plus maybe.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And so and I know the argument that people want to make there is like, well, is Scotty going to be as good as Kevin Durant or whatever? And then
probably not.
Fair enough. I get that. But
he's going to be good.
But it's not just that.
He's going to be good.
I think he's going to be really good. And I think not only that, but it's not just it's having that window of having Scotty Barnes for those years, and then maybe in some free agency or trades down the line, joining him with other players down the line.
Right.
Whereas with Kevin Durant, I will completely agree. If we have Kevin Durant on our team next year, like just swap him out or Scotty Barnes, next year, we're better with Kevin Durant. There's no doubt about it. All right. Of
course.
But how long does that last past that year? Like that's what I'm saying. Maybe a year after that. Maybe.
So I'm gonna ask you a hard question now.
Yeah.
If you get Kevin Durant for 4 years and you win 2 rings, is that not a success? Or is that worth it to lose Scotty Barnes for 10 plus?
Well,
that's the
I can
hard
ask
thing.
you the question.
Sure.
So you're going kind of best case scenario there.
Sure.
So if I go best case scenario with Scotty Barnes,
sure.
What if he becomes, first of all, Hall of Famer? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? MVP. Mm-hmm. Let's say an MVP. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of MVPs that don't win rings. So I
know, but to have an MVP for 10 plus years.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean it's that's the question, right? And then that's
a toughie, man. It's a toughie. And I completely get people that say you got to do it. It's Kevin Durant. I understand where they're coming from, but in my book, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'd probably do it for like Giannis. All right.
Okay, fair. For the time frame, the age where he is,
that one would be a lot more palatable. Like for example, I wouldn't do it for LeBron James.
Oh, for sure. I think
you know what I mean. But even then, like to me, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, right now, value wise, they're pretty comparable. I don't think Kevin Durant's like much more valuable than LeBron would be.
LeBron's a freak of nature, but you would have to assume Kevin might have a little bit more on the engine than LeBron. But with that said, you don't know. Like, yeah, that's the thing. LeBron James is a freak of nature, and Kevin Durant. Now, this is the one thing that I don't think a lot of people mention with Kevin Durant's game. Kevin Durant's game ages very well because he's such a good shooter. And it's not like Kevin Durant is out there dominating right now with his physical abilities. Like, his physical ability that benefits him the most is his height and his length because he can just shoot over people. So
and he's quite an underrated defender, even, I would say, at this time.
Definitely. And I think in a Raptors defensive structure, he would actually shine. Because if you look at what he did in Golden State defensively, what he was able to unlock because of playing alongside Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, and they would run him at the 5 and they would experiment with him. Mm-hmm. Nick Nurse would be doing that same shit. Nick Nurse would run this guy at the 2 and the 5 and the 4 and the 3 and the 1 even. Like, they would probably run Kevin Durant at every position in Toronto that they could.
Honestly, on paper, I would love to see a lineup of actually, you know what, before I even get to that, there's a third thing.
Okay.
And this might actually be the most important one in the context of all this.
Okay.
I don't think we have to put if Scotty Barnes is on the table for the Raptors, this is us putting our best offer on the table. All right?
Definitely.
I don't think we have to put our best offer on the table
to compete.
Because we don't have to get our best offer on the table. We just have to put an offer on the table that's better than the other offers that are on the table.
Exactly. And that's the rumor right now, I think, is that we're sticking strong to OG.
Tell me who's going to, this is my offer right now, and I think it's a pretty damn good offer, okay? Pascal, Gary Trent Jr., and picks and pick swaps. And even the picks and pick swaps, I don't even know if you have to do that.
My thing is this, fuck.
And then we take back, what's his name? Joe Harris.
Joe Harris.
Because I know they want to get off that contract, so we'll take it back.
If you're the Nets, are you trying to get OG or Siakam? Who are you prioritizing there? They want players. They want all-stars.
I would have thought Siakam. I mean, I would have thought OG initially, but I'm not so sure because they want to win Rao, and Pascal is
established.
Yeah,
you'd want to keep Pascal with Durant. Ideally, that's the thing because it would be such a perfect fit beside each other. I feel.
But if I'm keeping Scotty, I think OG, Scotty's going to take kind of Pascal's place on defense-ish.
Right.
OG will just be the Scottie Pippen to Durant's Jordan.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
Sure. And you got Van Vliet there still.
And OG's going to look like OG's going to be and Scotty and basically everybody else on the team. But OG's going to be able to say he worked with Kawhi Leonard for a year, and now he's learning from Kevin Durant.
Right.
I mean,
right.
For his development,
So here's my question to you then: If that is so you're saying Pascal, Gary Trent, possibly pick swaps. Are we waiting on the DeAndre Ayton situation here? Because to me, that's the
so interesting
big domino here. Because Phoenix is the Vegas favorite, Toronto is the second. So
because he wants to go to Phoenix.
He wants to go to Phoenix, right? But my thing is, do the Nets care? Probably not as much as you'd think. And then also on that, it's like, okay, well,
Nets care about what? About where he wants to go?
Yeah, I don't really think they give a shit. I don't think they care. I don't think they. I think especially with the 4 years left, I think they're like, dude, like.
Now, you're right, but I'll tell you why they care a little bit, and it's because Phoenix is more interested in trading for Durant, knowing that Durant wants to go there.
For sure.
So they're more inclined to put more on the table.
Right, because they're like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, let's make this work, let's get this done, both parties happy, it makes more sense.
That's it.
Now, I think from my comprehension of what's going on, what the delay is, not delay, but what's taking so long is essentially Phoenix and Brooklyn, from my understanding, are both not interested in DeAndre Ayton. So I think the domino that's waiting to fall here is, can Phoenix include a third team? Like possibly we're hearing like an Indiana with Miles Turner, or I don't know, maybe was there Utah? I don't know what it was, but there was third teams that they were coming into play here that would potentially ship off Ayton to that team. And then you got assets from that organization coming back to Brooklyn, compensation for Ayton with the Mikal Bridges package. So I think there's a date we're waiting on for that to be possible. And
no, you know what it is, man? You're exactly right, but the reasoning is different. It's not that they don't want Ayton. It's that, and this I figured that this is the same thing with Bam Adebayo. All right, it's because there's this rule. Yeah, exactly. There's this rule that if you have a max rookie contract extension player,
Ben Simmons,
you can't have more than one on your team.
Right.
So since they have Ben Simmons, they can't get Ayton. They can't get Adebayo.
Right.
And they can't get Ayton, assuming Ayton gets the max contract.
The extension, right?
right?
Yeah.
Extension, yeah. So that's the weird thing that's kind of holding everything up
That's a
right now.
weird rule. I don't even remember
It's
hearing
a
about that rule.
stupid rule. I don't know why that rule is in place.
But
I don't.
I think it's to protect teams from trading for young stars. Like if a young star demands a trade,
Whatever.
It stops them from like leaving their New Orleans destination or their Detroit or their, small organization from their rookie deal. I think that's what I heard Woj talking, like why it's in place. But yeah, it's like a weird one because
It's like the Stepien rule, it's made to do something, but in the end, it's just gonna
cause
it
other
just makes
shit.
things more complicated.
Yeah, and then the weird thing with it is too, it's like Brooklyn's kind of put into this pigeonhole where now if they want a certain player, they'd have to sacrifice Ben Simmons, who was like a big part of their obviously their trade package to Harden.
Yeah.
So it's kind of leaves Brooklyn in a bit of an unfair position in the sense that they're like, well, fuck, if we want to get some of these guys, we also got to move Ben, but we don't probably want to move Ben. Like, why would you want to move Ben right now? That's what you got back as your Harden asset. So I think to them, it's really hard to make it work, like you said, with the Ayton piece. And I think we're waiting for a team to maybe get involved, because if you send Turner to the Nets, just say, and they get Ayton or whatever it is,
yeah,
and Bridges, so then you're getting Turner and Bridges back, in the package with picks. It's a little bit more palatable, right, than just like a Bridges and picks. But from my understanding right now is that...
Or would you rather that, or would you rather Siakam and Gary Trent Jr. in picks?
Turner or Bridges, or Siakam and Gary Trent Jr.
And picks. Or, okay, let's just put the picks aside.
I hate to say it, bro, but I'm probably taking Turner and Bridges, no?
Fair enough.
Would you not? Like, my logic is that both are younger. Or sorry, Turner's younger than Siakam, and Bridges is about the same age as Trent, no?
Probably.
And I would say Bridges has probably taken more steps than Trent has so far. As much as I really was impressed with Trent last season, I would say Bridges is probably the piece I'm taking.
Probably,
I'm taking,
but I think the difference between Turner and Siakam is
pretty big. But Turner's younger and defensively a little bit more stable. Siakam offensively is much, much better. It comes down to
slouch on defense.
No, that's true, and it comes down to like where you want to lean. I'm a big Siakam fan, so I want to say Siakam
and Ben Simmons is a nice.
I like that
running combo.
For me, it actually comes down to more the Bridges Trent thing, because I'm higher on Bridges long term than I am Trent. I think Bridges to me is like defensively has all the tools to be all NBA defensive like first team for a while. So I don't know. It's hard. You get two very capable defenders in that package, right? You're getting arguably one of the best perimeter defenders in the whole NBA, and arguably one of the best rim protectors in the NBA with that deal. So defensively, that's a big package back. But I mean, offensively, Siakam and Trent ain't no bum either.
He's young. All-NBA player.
It's hard to say. Am I crazy to think that have the Lakers offered anything for Kevin Durant with Davis involved, and is that not on the table? And what?
I think it should be on the table. But at the
because to me, if I'm the Nets,
but if I'm the Lakers, I don't know if I would want Durant over AD. Honestly,
I would. You don't? I
think AD is a better fit. And if you're saying no because of AD's injury history, well, that's why Brooklyn says no too.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily know because of AD's injury history. I'm just thinking about in transition Durant and LeBron and the shooting specifically. But I'm like, if I'm Brooklyn Nets and I'm getting anything back for Kevin Durant, and you're telling me I could get a Siakam and a Trent, or I could get a Bridges and a Turner, or I could get a Davis, and I'm probably leaning, and this is bias aside from just the Lakers, I'm just thinking if you can get the biggest asset back, like would Anthony Davis not have the most trade asset? Wouldn't he still be in that out of all those
he's the
pieces?
Best player out of all those players, no doubt about that.
So wouldn't you consider that to be like the closest thing you could get back from nickels on the dollar, or their quarters on the dollar, what they say for that expression? Like, isn't that the closest thing back to 75 cents on the dollar in a sense, to as opposed to like a 250 cents for the dollar? Like, isn't it more comparable to get like an Anthony Davis quality first round pick piece as your kind of foundation, and then maybe build around a three-way with other teams? Like maybe you do
probably, but it's
I'm surprised that we're not hearing more about that.
Really, really complicate things
for sure. But I think that there's There's still, I mean, the guy's still 27 years old. Same age as Siakam. We've still seen him. He's an NBA champion. We've seen him hit huge shots. Like, I don't think, I mean, and I think if you look past the injuries, which is obviously easier to say, like, I think he's still, at the end of the day, he's still a quality freaking player, right? But
I'm not saying he's not.
But if you're getting anything back, to me, that's the route I'd be taking if I'm Brooklyn. And that's not even with my Kevin Durant, LeBron James teaming up in LA bias. That's just like thinking strictly assets, like trying to ignore my bias for the Raptors, which is what I did when you asked me Turner and Bridges. I'm trying to ignore my Raptors bias because obviously if I'm a Raptors fan.
Well, it sounds like you're ignoring it pretty well.
Yeah, I'm not. And to me, that deal wasn't so much about Siakam versus Turner. It was more the Bridges Trent thing for me in that. When I'm looking at there.
Yeah, but it's the package you got to look at.
For sure, but that was my differentiator. Like that's what was causing me to lean maybe more to the Phoenix package because of that. It wasn't the Siakam piece that I'm like weary of. You know what I mean? It was more Trent and Bridges. Like I think I'd rather Bridges than Trent. Like wouldn't you? Like if you were to
Well, yeah, but wouldn't you rather Siakam than Turner then?
I think so. For sure.
That's what I'm saying. It's a package.
For sure. But I think, yeah, like, I guess it's like how much do you weigh the difference of, but
Exactly.
It's hard. But
But hold on. Going back to this Lakers thing, because
right.
honestly, I'm sure Durant and LeBron would play very well together, but I really feel like AD is a better fit.
I don't know. I think the transition with Durant and LeBron and that. And on top of that, like it would give you an opportunity to bring in Kyrie as well, maybe. Like that's the thing. That's the other piece of this is it gives you flexibility now to like.
Well, like so what you're thinking is AD and Russell Westbrook for both?
And then you kind of just hopefully leverage the fact that you got the expiring money with Westbrook to bring in a big piece next offseason, and then we'll obviously have to compensate.
The same thing with Kyrie.
Same thing, but I would say the big difference, well, more money coming off with Russ than Kyrie is the big one. I think it's like a little bit more. And then on top of that, Kyrie's gone. You could even let's just say you trade for Westbrook and he has somewhat of a little bit of a bounce back year. You could maybe even bring him back on a mid-level exception for trading for the guy. Like Russ would seem like the kind of player where if you showed him that well, we have faith in you, a little bit of a Chris Paul OKC thing maybe.
I get that, but that's like
Chris Paul versus
hypotheticals and things, but like I think the real question there is, can they get something better if they trade them separately? That's what they'll ask themselves.
But who is trading? No one's going to trade for Kyrie Irving. Like that's my thing. Like you're not going to be able to.
If Lakers are going to give them Russell Westbrook and a pick or 2 picks for Kyrie Irving, right, mm-hmm. and then they can get either the Phoenix deal or the whatever deal
for Durant, right?
And it's probably better to do both those deals separately.
Sure.
And I think, honestly, the Lakers are, this is something I wrote down. I think the Lakers are in a really tough spot right now because obviously they want Kyrie. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of stuck because I don't think the Nets will trade Kyrie first. I think they will get KD deal done first if they're going to get it done in this offseason, because I'm starting to think, why not just play them? Why not? If the offer you want's not on the table, you have them for 4 years. But anyways, I digress.
Mm-hmm. And Durant will play. Like he's the kind of guy who's just going to play.
I think he will too, and
he's
I think
too good not to.
It'd be must-watch TV. I'll tell you that much.
Mm-hmm. But will Kyrie play?
Well, going back to, I think, if he doesn't, fuck, that makes him look bad.
I wouldn't put it past him.
But I feel bad for the Lakers because they're stuck right now. Like I think there's 2 moves they really want to do right now. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for Kyrie, I think one of them is getting Eric Gordon from Houston, and I think another one is getting Buddy Hield from Indiana. Mm-hmm. Both those moves make them look really, really good. Actually, the Indiana one, I think there's rumors of Miles Turner coming back in that one too. Whoa. With Buddy.
That's
trying to work something out like that. But either way, I don't think they can do these things because I think LeBron wants Kyrie.
Right.
And you can't do anything with Kyrie until something happens with Durant.
So they're kind of just waiting on the Durant trade. Yeah.
And it's really awkward, and it's like
you got Westbrook. You got Westbrook showing up for summer league games, and then you got people being like, "Dude, like they're gonna trade you. Like, what are you doing?" And then like you got this weird dynamic with I've been seeing online.
It's a weird dynamic.
Did you see the Genie Bus tweets? There was like some thing where
I didn't see the actual tweet. I just
You heard about the kind of the story.
Something about Kobe or something.
She I think she tweeted out that Kobe's the best Laker of all time, which is fine. But then she tweeted something about like this organization will not, prioritize any one player. Like it was very cryptic towards
so she's
LeBron.
Telling LeBron that they're not going to go after Kyrie or something.
People are saying it's very cryptic, as in like she's basically saying like you and Anthony Davis told us to get Westbrook. We got Westbrook. It didn't work, and now you're telling us to get Kyrie, and we don't want to sacrifice our future. To me, I could actually throw this as a party foul on Jeannie Buss and the Lakers now that I think about it, because you know what you signed up for when you got LeBron James. And you especially know what you signed up for when you traded for Anthony Davis. So to not like to be 75% in and the Westbrook thing's not working, and then be like, well, maybe we don't want to sacrifice any more of our future to get Kyrie in here. What the hell are you doing? Your time is right now. Everyone
but I think
knows.
They were 100% in when they did the Westbrook thing.
Right.
I think the party foul there is to do this on Twitter.
Right. Well,
this is probably an internal discussion that should happen, though. They're
saying that the reason behind it is because that's how LeBron James kind of moves, very passive aggressive. He'll tweet something, he'll put something out.
And
so
that's fair.
That's kind of the joke on ESPN is like
doesn't mean that they should be doing that,
right? But the joke is that's his love language, and it's like that's the only way to get through to him is like being passive aggressive. So which LeBron's definitely been passive aggressive, but I think you're gonna really hold LeBron wanting Kyrie against him. Like, obviously he's going to want Kyrie, bro. Like, pretty sure all of us know that if Kyrie Irving goes to the Lakers next year and you exchange that with Westbrook, right? Like, I think pretty much all of us know that's a better team and it's going to be a better team. Like,
well, would you rather, and again, I mean, this is kind of a dumb question, but would you rather Kyrie Irving or would you rather Miles Turner and Buddy Hield? Because I think this is kind of the problem with the Lakers are kind of trying to manage right now.
Sure.
I don't know what the answer is, by the way.
I don't know what the answer is either, because the star power of Kyrie with Anthony Davis and LeBron screams title to me, and the fit seems perfect. But then if you actually break down, if you could run Turner at the 5 and Davis at the 4, and then you got Buddy on the 4 spacing. Yeah, that might be a better team fit. And then when you think about
on paper, maybe
right, and if you think about the dynamic of the league, the Phoenix Suns, the Boston Celtics, the Memphis Grizzlies, like we talked about this last week, to win an NBA title now, Golden State Warriors, you need to be a good fucking team. You got your core, Steph, Draymond, Clay. Like without Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins,
you need the role players.
And without these guys, and let's also mention, I don't know if you saw, but yesterday, James Wiseman and Jonathan Kuminga looked freaking unbelievable in Summer League. And I'm like, dude, to me, you got a couple things in play here. One, looking like Wiseman is actually going to be somewhat of an actual sellable piece now. If a team saw that footage from last night, you got to be pretty freaking excited. Not only him, Kuminga looks phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. I love Kuminga.
I'm still not counting out the Kevin Durant back to Golden State thing as much as I don't want to see it happen,
dude,
bro.
I think they have the best offer.
Like,
I didn't want to say it, but I think they have the best.
Well, I mean, if you put it on paper, if you can offer Andrew Wiggins, Wiseman, Kuminga, picks, maybe a Moses Moody in there.
That is tough to beat, man.
Even if you
were offering Scotty Barnes.
First of all, think about it like this. Scotty Barnes, you're getting one asset back that you know for sure is a stud and it will grow into something special. If you're getting the Golden State package back, you're getting a guy in Kuminga. It's like, okay, what's this guy stealing? You're getting a guy in Wiseman. It's like, well, now what's this guy stealing? You're getting Andrew Wiggins. It's like, okay, this guy is probably just starting to enter his prime. You're getting Jordan Poole.
What's this guy stealing? Expiring deal.
Right. So there's and then on top of that, if they could include picks, things like that.
I don't think they have to, but yeah, you're right. Like now, I think that package is probably the best. I don't know if Golden State does it. Because I really do like those young guys.
Right, and are they willing to sacrifice their depth, which just helped play a big piece in this title run, to get a Kevin Durant back, lose all that depth?
I mean, the only reason I kind of feel like they're more inclined to do something like that rather than Toronto
it's worked before.
Is because in Toronto, it's opening up a window for just a specific amount of time, whereas in Golden State, I think it's just extending their dynasty window.
Right. The window's already open, and it's there.
That's what I'm saying.
They're going to contend either way. If you add Durant, it's almost... Now...
That's a tough, man. It's tough.
I don't like this league. I I wouldn't like this move for Kevin Durant and the league. I don't think this is a good move for the league because I think this actually puts the league backwards in the sense that as much as I know people say the NBA is so deep now any team can win, I really do think that if you put Kevin Durant on Golden State, they're the overwhelming favorites again, probably for the next 3-4 years. So in that sense, I really don't like the move for the NBA as a whole. It's a little bit hypocritical because obviously if the Lakers pulled off a super move and got Kevin Durant and Kyrie and they were the favorites to win, I'd be super thrilled. But it's probably just has a little bit to do with we've seen this team before be so dominant that the thought of them coming back into play together again is like annoying. And is that fair enough to say that a lot of the NBA would probably be pretty annoyed if that happened?
I mean, yeah, but the way I look at it is like I'd be happy to get another shot at that Goliath again. You know what I mean?
Sure. But who's even capable of hanging with that team if after what we saw it happen to Boston now Boston made some pretty big moves. They got Gallinari, they got Brogdon, like they've gotten better, but is that enough to hang with Kevin Durant and the Warriors still? I don't even know, man. And I don't really know.
I think Boston made some nice moves, but I still don't think they've got enough.
And that's the thing is like, and then I start asking myself, who is even capable to hang with that Golden State team? I don't think there's a single team in the league that would be on that level. And I don't think, I think right now it's even hard to put a team on this current Golden State's level, right? So that's just kind of the position I'm in where I'm.
You think right now they're on a different level than everybody?
I think so. And in some sense, I think it's a lot closer than what it's been in the past and things like that. But I think if you just look at them as just because like they've been together for 10 plus years, there's no one even in the league close to that level of chemistry, dynamic. I mean, all the way down from their front office to their ownership to it's been such the continuity of this team and this legacy of the franchise has been so consistent that it's like. And like we've seen it work with Durant before, that adding him in the picture again, I don't like the idea of it, and I think Kevin doesn't like the idea of it, because I think
I think that's why it doesn't happen. I think Kevin Durant understands that he can't really do that again.
Right, and I think
like he could,
right.
But getting another 2 rings in Golden State those 4 rings are probably the most asterisk 4 rings that anybody has.
Right, so. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I don't know what to believe in terms of like what's going on. I think, like I said, we're probably waiting for the Ayton situation to unfold a little bit. Who at this given point, who would you predict lands him? Like if you had to guess where he were to go at this point of like everything we've seen, who would be your number one?
Toronto.
You think so?
Yeah, I just have a feeling about it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket. And honestly, I don't want to sound like a homer or anything, because if we don't do that trade, it's not like I'm crying about it.
Sure.
I really love this team.
Which in a sense,
love everything about it.
Which in a sense puts Toronto in a pretty good situation, because it's like if we get them, great. If we don't, we're okay.
Desperate.
Right. Which could actually help them in terms of negotiations and dealing with Brooklyn. Putting your offer on the table and not frantically, like I'm sure Phoenix right now is calling every day being like, yo, we need to get this done. Like, what are we waiting for? Like we're scared we're going to lose them. Like, and then you probably got Masai who's like, this is my offer.
This is my offer for now. Yeah.
Yeah. Take any better offer that's on the table. But I
promise
you.
If you ask me about Scotty, I'm going to hang up.
Right. And he's probably just like, yeah, you can take Mikal Bridges, but if you're asking me right now if I'm taking OG or Mikal Bridges, I'm taking OG. He's probably just, and he's probably reinforcing the value of these players. I
believe it.
Is there any situation in which Scotty Barnes gets traded and we land Kevin Durant that you're happy or okay with? That's a pretty important question right
now. The main thing is I trust Masai here. I really do. If he ends up trading Scotty for Kevin Durant, I will go with the flow, obviously, but
and still root for Scotty, and like he'll be one of those guys. He's created such a mark on our franchise. It's crazy to think, but if Scotty got traded to Brooklyn and
he's the best rookie we have had since Vince.
Right. So that would still be it would still follow his career thoroughly.
Yeah. No, it's not like I'm gonna hate on Scotty or anything, and it's not like I'm going to not appreciate Kevin Durant coming back.
Right.
But I really feel that at least right now, I just don't see that trade happening right now. I don't see us putting Scotty Barnes in the trade right now. Again, I understand people. I think it's like I don't think it's a it's an easy yes or no, and I don't think there's really a wrong answer.
Hmm.
It's just in my book, I wouldn't do it, and I don't think Masai would do it either, at least right now. But fuck, I don't know.
what would it take, or what would change like what would be a breaking point for that to go through or to happen? What do you think is like, is Masai waiting to see like what's that's what I'm so curious about, is like, how is this back end looking like? How constantly are these phone calls coming in? Like, what's Masai playing like? Has
Well,
he
they're
made it
talking at Summer League. You've seen them.
right? And is there budge from a team? Like, I'm just curious about like who's the closest right now. Like, would you say Phoenix is probably still the closest to getting him, or is that like
I think, yeah, because that's where he wants to go.
right?
So I think they're always technically going to have that. It's just, asking me what I think will happen if he goes somewhere. I think I'm kind of feeling Toronto, and maybe that's just because I'm starting to get a bit excited. But another answer to that, honestly, man, is I'm starting to see. I can imagine them starting the season with them both.
Brooklyn starting with them both,
I mean, Brooklyn has the power here.
right?
Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's they don't have a lot of leverage because the trade demands are public and all that. I'll
Sure.
give you that, but they have Durant for 4 years, and Kyrie Irving. Well, yeah, you're right. They only have him for one. Um, I just I think they prioritize Durant so much more that it's not that they don't care about Kyrie, but Kyrie's going to come second. Whatever happens is going to come second. And if they just don't do a trade with Durant because there's no good trade out there, and they don't have to make a trade, then Kyrie's just gonna kind of have to go with that too.
Right. And I think as long as they're both able to play together in Brooklyn, they probably would both suit up.
Well, how amazing would it be if opening night comes, everybody expecting it to be a shit show, but Ben Simmons plays out as well, and they don't lose the first 10 games?
Right. And they
Who
come
the hell is talking after that?
right, right. And not only that, you're going to have teams then, if you have Kevin Durant just balling out of his mind with Ben Simmons and Kyrie, and they win 8 straight, 9 straight, all these teams are probably then going to start calling and be like, okay, well, maybe one more pick,
Exactly.
maybe 2 more picks, maybe we give you,
You're damn right.
maybe
You're damn
maybe
right.
Scotty's not out of the question here after he's shooting 40% from the field, looking like he's starting a little slow here. Like, I hate to say it, but there's also this possibility that we trade Scotty Barnes away and it looks like an absolute steal in 5 years, right? That's a possibility, dude. And you
An
can't.
absolute steal? I don't know.
Well, there's a this is one thing I don't think a lot of
It would
people
only
talk
be like
about, but
if
it's like,
Scotty gets a season a career-changing injury, knock on wood.
sure, but there also could be a reality, and I'm not going to put this on him, and he's like the furthest thing from probably this panning out and actually happening. But there's also a reality. He comes out and like looks very similar to what he did last year, and for the next 4 years, he kind of stays in this role of like a 15-7. Like, that's also possible, dude. So
I mean, it's possible, but
I'm not going to put
the way he's done it and the way he elevated his games in the playoffs, for example,
it's very unlikely.
it doesn't look like that's his trajectory.
No, and that's like probably the furthest thing from his trajectory, to be quite honest with you. But I think in hindsight, if you got a Kevin Durant back who was averaging 30 a game, you might be like, well, fuck, why did we hesitate on this? But it's not again, I'm not putting that as a slight on Scotty. It's just the level that Kevin Durant is at. It's like, the only thing you really fear with Durant is the age and injury. You're not fearing the skill in the game and the quality of the game,
Of
what he
course.
does, right? Or
Yeah,
what he
yeah,
brings.
yeah.
It's really just the age and the injury.
The things you fear with Kevin Durant are the things that you don't fear with Scotty, and vice versa.
It's their opposites. It's like, will Scotty develop the skill and blah blah blah? You know he's gonna have a long, prosperous career, and is Kevin gonna be able to stay in his prime and healthy? It's like the two. That's what makes it such a weird, funny trade. It's like you got a very similar, like long, lengthy build style player, but then it's like one's at the beginning of his career, we don't know how it's gonna pan out. One's at the end of his career, and we know what he is and how great he is. And it's like, do you want to trade? But it's just such a hard thing, because it's like, okay, well, what the fuck is Scotty in 10 years?
I got another question. I got a same ballpark, but a different player here. If you're New Orleans, are you trading Brandon Ingram for Kevin Durant?
Well, that's the other one that everyone talks about, and it's like, I think
that's interesting too.
I think it's interesting in the sense that if you're Brooklyn and you're getting a piece back, in a sense, it's like
a nice piece.
Brandon Ingram's a little bit more established than Scotty, and probably a little bit more of a sure thing, in the sense that we already know offensively what he can do, and that's not going
baby Durant,
right, and that's not going to go away. And would you probably say he's the closest thing to Kevin Durant in the whole NBA? I would.
Probably.
I don't really see any. He's kind of the only player
He fits the mold.
that has that height, that size, that can dribble like that and pull up over people at a similar level to Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant does it at a whole other level. But I think when I'm thinking of guys like in the league that actually play like that, like it's really like Ingram's like one of the few you can probably can't count on your hands.
Yeah.
So like you said, a baby Durant, I think the idea is very intriguing. I think it makes them better. Do you think the Pelicans are... I don't think the Pelicans are necessarily rushing to do that because I think they're pretty happy with what they saw from Ingram. Like, dude, Ingram looked really good last playoffs and last season. Like, so to me, it's like...
No, he did.
Are you in a rush to do that? Like, I don't even know.
No, but you know what? I think this is what's happening around the whole league is guys are looking at their teams and they're saying like, well...
I like my team.
I'm not sure that I'm going to put Ingram in. I'm not sure I'm going to put Scotty Barnes in this. I'm not sure that I'm going to, and I think the Nets were kind of assuming that it would be like an avalanche of amazing trade offers, like doing the 2K trade simulator or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like just,
Trade
my God,
finder.
look at this one. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I think they were severely underwhelmed.
Right. And I think they probably got an offer from every team in the league, but I think every team,
not their best offer.
Right. I think every team in the league came in with a lowball offer because they knew they were going to have to add more. So I think that's why you get... And I bet you Brooklyn is just kind of like, well, no, man, you guys aren't going to get him for this price. And then you have stories of like, we want Cat, Ant, picks, give us it all, And I also don't think it helps any team landing him that literally a day before all this goes down, we have a Rudy Gobert trade centered around 5 first-round picks, right? Like I think that also plays into like how people are seeing this. It's like we have this massive blockbuster Gobert trade that breaks down 5 picks. So that's the foundation of what they want back is like at least a haul of picks like that, if not more.
Oh, that's what they want.
Right. Now, do you think there's a possibility we see the Nets get less for Kevin Durant than Utah got for Gobert?
Picks?
Picks, yeah.
Yeah.
Just depending on the player
that's attached to it. But yeah, I think well the problem with the Rudy Gobert amount of picks is like, first of all, it's 4 picks plus a rookie, that was picked. So it's not quite 5 picks, but I get why people are saying that. But it's not 5 picks that you can pick, right? So let's just say it's 4 picks that you can pick. And most teams can't trade 4 picks because if you're only talking about your own picks, and you can only pick it, or you can only send, every 2 years a pick. You can't send 2 years picks in a row. There's a limit also how far you can go in the future. So I don't think most teams can send 4 picks out anyways. They can send 3 with 2 pick swaps in between or 3 pick swaps around them. But unless these teams are getting a pick from another trade before, the majority of the league can't do that. Can't even match the picks.
I have yes, I do. And I have a bit of a report coming out now on the score.
Scotty Barnes traded for Kevin Durant.
Scotty Barnes will miss the rest of the season. No, the Pacers are.
Don't even fucking.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Pacers are very close to giving DeAndre Ayton an offer sheet or executing a sign and trade as early as today.
Pacers.
Pacers are gonna give Ayton an offer.
Yeah, I've been hearing that, and that's that. Oh man, that's gonna mess things up.
Yeah,
for Phoenix.
Well, it's like this is interesting to me
Toronto's
now.
moving up now
because it's like this is what becomes very interesting. If you have Indiana who almost maxes Ayton, and then Phoenix is like, well, fuck, do we lose him? But we want Kevin. What do we do? Like, are they just gonna be pigeonholed to do something great? Like, maybe because of this, now they have to just say fuck it, 6 picks or something ridiculous. Like, I don't even know, man.
They can't. They don't have 6 picks.
Do they not have all their? I thought they had all their first.
No, but so you can only trade. You can't trade 2 years picks in a row. But there's also you can't trade more than like 5 or 6 years in the future or something like that.
Oh my god.
You know what I'm saying? So you can only trade I think it's only 3 if it's only your own picks.
Right. Oh yeah,
unless it's on draft night. Because on draft night you can trade that year's pick and it doesn't count. True. It's so weird, but it's just one of those rules that exists.
So do you think that Pacers could how long does Phoenix have to match?
For the Lakers if this happens.
Really?
Yeah, because first of all, I don't think they want Turner and Aiden.
Sure. Yeah.
So if they do this, somebody's going to get Miles Turner, and I would bet that Lakers are at the forefront right now.
With the Westbrook deal?
Hmm.
But like,
I don't know if they're going to, pull the trigger on it because I think they do want Kyrie first.
I was going to say, now aren't they sort of in a similar situation to Phoenix where you have two teams kind of wanting, Lakers want Kyrie, Phoenix wants Durant, and now are we kind of
they're
waiting?
in a similar situation, but I'd rather be in Lakers situation right now because it's kind of like two ways they could go. It's just not really them that's going to decide which way it's going to be.
Right.
But I think either way is kind of nice.
Right. And how much time does Phoenix have to match the Ayton offer? That's what
I think it's like 5 or 10 days or something.
Now they'll probably exercise that.
Yeah, you think so?
Right. Like I would assume they will probably go the longest possible time they can.
I would think so. I think so.
Well, this just became a little kind of interesting because now this might put Phoenix on the clock, and that could cause maybe something to happen, like in terms of like maybe there's one asset that they're not including that is like the game changer. Like there could be something that goes down because of this.
It'll be.
Oh, I might have lost you, bro. Can you hear me? Oh, lost you for a second. You're back though.
Oh, my bad. I was just saying it's going to be good for our pod on Friday.
Yes.
Either something's going to happen before or might even happen on the day of.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're over. I think we're about an hour 10 now, so we've covered a lot. This might be a good kind of spot to leave it, kind of a little bit of a cliffhanger, see what's to come next. Like you said, next Friday, I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about, and hopefully maybe something goes down in between there. Last couple days, like last week's episode, we had the Gobert trade break live when we were doing it, right?
True.
So we do have now this kind of Ayton news with Indiana that's breaking at the end. So probably a good spot to cut it. And yeah, we can touch on some of this stuff next week. We'll have more summer league to talk about, more off season. Probably a lot more that would, like, the span of the NBA in 3 days is like equivalent of a month of what it used to be. So yeah, man, I think it was a pretty good episode. I think it was pretty good show for the most part. Yeah, dude, any closing thoughts, anything you wanted to add before we cut, anything you wanted to finish off with?
No, you know what? We touched on a lot. I will save some of the stuff for Friday. But this Kevin Durant thing, man.
It's crazy.
What a show.
It's exciting.
What a show.
It's exciting. It keeps the off season keeps us wanting more, keeps us anticipating, keeps us on our toes. So definitely going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Next Friday, hopefully we have some good stuff to talk about, man.
It's a block party, baby.
It's the block party. Peace out, guys. Have a good rest of your day.